In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, I am very happy to be able to share with you some reflections about commonalities between Islam and Christianity and how we should treat our commonalities and differences. Before I start mentioning our commonalities, I need to make some introductory points which I think are very important for whoever wants to work in interfaith field. Number one, we human beings are made in the way that we notice differences before we notice commonalities. And I was reflecting on the reason, and my conclusion has been that this is part of our defense system. Yeah, because if, for example, I go into a room and there are many people who look the same. There is one person who looks different. I cannot deal with all people. The chances of that person who is different be more risky is more. So I have, my mind is made in the way that focuses on the one who is different, not on the similarities. Or for example, if there are things which are fixed, but one thing moves, my mind automatically picks up the movements, not the things which are fixed. So this is by itself very useful, but we need to train ourselves not to remain at this level of acting by instincts. So if you go to an audience that, for example, people all have the same dress, one person has different dress, you notice that person first. Then this comes to our life then. If we are with people that we share a lot and there is a person we share less, that person draws our attention, and all the time we will keep looking at that person. If a stranger comes to our meeting, we will keep looking at the stranger or think about that stranger all the time, because that is where we are not comfortable, and we think if there is any problem going to happen, maybe it's between us and a stranger. Anyway, we need to train ourselves so that at the same time that we notice differences, we don't want to hide or deny differences, but at least we give equal measure to differences and commonalities, if they are equally important. And if they are not equally important, then we give each side its due significance. We shouldn't give differences too much attention just because they are differences. This is a broad issue. It even comes to family relations, community relations. You know, sometimes you see, for example, husband and wife who have been living together for many years, then 2-3 problems emerge, and then they think they cannot live together. All these years they have lived together. They have hundreds of things that, you know, they think the same way, but sometimes 2-3 problems are enough, or sometimes even one problem is enough that captures their attention, and they say we cannot live together. You have lived all these years together. How you have come to this conclusion that only 2 differences or 3 differences can make you, or, you know, people who are partners in business, many times they, you know, fall apart because of not agreeing on one transaction or 2 transactions. You know, partnership stops. In community, sometimes, you know, people over 1-2 decisions, they decide to break, and then they start a new center or new community place. So this is part of the play or the game of mind, and we have to train our mind. If you just go with the way that your mind instinctively is taking you, you can get into lots of problems. You have to keep tell yourself, is this really that big issue? Is this difference so important that we cannot, work around it? This is a very important technique that we have to learn. In any way, in world of interreligious or intra-religious relations, we have to be careful not let differences capture all our ideas, all our judgments. Sometimes you see people with the wrong mindset even have fighting with people of the same faith if they belong to another denomination. Yeah, we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have, rare cases of Christians from different denominations or Muslims from different denominations or other religions from different denominations having fight among each other, excommunicating each other, sometimes killing each other, sometimes trying to confiscate the places of worship of each other. We have had many cases. I'm not saying majority, but we have had cases of this for centuries. And even some extremists today, in 21st century, they give themselves right to kill not only other religious believers and followers, even people of the same religion, their fellow Muslim brothers and sisters, or fellow Christian brothers and sisters, or fellow, Buddhist or Hindu, whatever. Why? Because their differences have captured their attention so much that they cannot see the commonalities which are among them. But by taking your time, by being more mature, by being more spiritual, by being more open-minded, and more maybe important than anything, by being more humble, you realize that you are not the center of the world and you are not the only believers in God. And there are other people who honestly are trying to worship God and please God. Now many Christians, many Muslims, despite keeping their theological differences, they believe in unity. They believe that we are brothers and sisters in God, brothers and sisters in Christ or in Islam, despite our differences. Have they solved all the theological problems? No. Have they washed them away? No. The theological differences are there. They have just been able to look at things from a wider framework. If you have a larger framework, then differences would look as they are, not too big. This is a very important point. Yesterday, we had this discussion with two sisters after, I think it was a lunch or supper. I said, there is a challenge. I many times ask this question from people. If someone, please listen very carefully to this point. I think this is a very fundamental question for all of us. If someone shares with you your language, how much you feel happy and how much you feel united, especially if you both of you are in another country. For example, if you are in Kenya and another person speaks, Swahili, it's great, but you don't appreciate that much. But if you are, walking on the street of, London or New York, and you speak someone who speaks your language, you are so happy that I share a lot with this person. And if that person happens to be from your own country, not only from East Africa, for example, from your own country, from your own city, you feel so happy. And if it's someone that you live in the same neighborhood, you say, I was going to this school, said I was going to this school, So you feel that you share a lot with this person. Or people who are fans of football, if they find that they support the same team, sometimes for them this is very important. If those who are really taking football seriously, as if they worship football, if they follow the same team and they have the same footballist as their hero, they think there is no level of unity greater than this. Now, my question is this. If someone shares with you God, how much you share? This is a big question and test for all of us. After, years of being in religious life, now if we really think, if someone shares with me the same God, as mother of Christian said that the people who are worshiping the same God. So our God is the same God, God of Abraham, the personal God. If someone shares with me same God, how much we share? Can you give me percentage?
99.6.
If you say we share 10%, 20%, 50%, 60%, 70%, all of them are not doing justice to centrality of God. If someone shares with me the same God, if the same love and devotion to God is there, as Father William said, we share more than 99%. We can say even 100%. Because for us, God is everything. God is not greater in the sense that, we say Allahu Akbar, we don't mean there are other things which are great and God is greater. In Islamic interpretation, when we say Allahu Akbar, it means Allahu Akbaru min an Yusuf, means God greater than being described. Means He's greater than any description. This is the meaning. Otherwise, we don't say God is greater than human being, God is greater than nature, God is greater than angels. No, there is nothing to compare with God. God is greater than anything by, imagination, by any calculation, by any measure, by any description. So, if I have a cousin, suppose, or even a sapling, okay, who is from the same country, the same city, the same blood origins as me, speaks the same language, and he is also a Shia Muslim, okay, but he doesn't practice, he doesn't believe in centrality of God. So he is by name Shia, and maybe throughout the year he does certain things, but he has not based his life on pleasing God and seeking face of God. Okay? But he's a Shia and he's my cousin. He speaks my language, we share same rituals, everything. And there is a Christian or a Sunni Muslim who doesn't have any blood relation with me, who doesn't speak my language, but has made God central of his life or her life. And I can see that they have devoted their lives to God. Is my cousin closer to me, or this Sunni or Christian who has devoted himself or herself to God is closer to me? Pardon? Yes. The person who has devoted himself to God must be closer to me if I have accepted the first premise that God is the center of everything. Okay? We have always been, hearing in theological lectures, and we have been teaching and this is not wrong, but it was not doing justice, or it was not enough. That, for example, the closest people to me are Shia Muslims, because we believe in the same doctrines, we have the same practices. Then a wider circle would be Muslims in general, because we believe in the same Quran, same Mecca, Prophet, months of Ramadan. Then Christians and followers of Abraham in general, because we believe in the same God and we have lots of commonalities. And then with the people who believe in God but not in an Abrahamic way. And then people of goodwill, even if they have no faith. Okay, this is not wrong, but this is not the whole picture. This is just based on theories and doctrines. You can say, to me, Shia Muslims are closer in theories, in doctrines. Or to you, Catholics are closer than other Christians, and then Christians are closer than Muslims, based on the doctrines and theories. But when we come to reality of faith, and if we say faith is to turn towards God with humility, with gratitude, with openness, with submission, then who would be closer to me? Those who share more theories and doctrines and theology with me, or those who share love for God more? Yeah? I think it's very clear that this is the reality. And one of the things that God gifted us was that through our relations with our Christian brothers and sisters, which has now been more than 25 years, in different parts of the world, with different groups, different denominations. And we have spent, sometimes hours, sometimes days, sometimes weeks. We have really witnessed, and I can, say this testimony in front of God. I have seen Christians who are really devoted to God. Yeah, I can see and I can bear witness. If anyone wants to say Christians cannot believe in God, or they are, not honest, I cannot accept. Not only my theology doesn't accept, but I have experienced, I have seen love in them. I have seen genuine love for God in them. And many times I feel embarrassed in front of them. I said, I have not done enough for God that they have done. The same with some Sunni Muslims. I know some Sunni Muslims are much better than me in loving God and loving the Prophet. It doesn't mean my theology is not good. I have not been as an individual able to live up to my standards. And I am able, at least I thank God that my eyes are not blind. I can see there are Sunni Muslims who are much more loving God and much more pious than many of my fellow Shia brothers and sisters. Of course, I can see many Shia brothers and sisters who are great, but I can see other great people in other traditions. I can see people are connected to God in different ways. I am not in favor of pluralism in the sense that I say, okay, you can choose. No, these are theological discussions. For every little proposition, we need to discuss. But it doesn't stop me seeing beauty everywhere. It doesn't stop me seeing work of God in other traditions. So, my experience has supported my theology. If my experience and theology were in conflict, then it means that my theology was not good. My theology was not developed well. If there is any theology who cannot explain real faith in other communities, that theology is not competent. Because the reality is that God is loved and worshipped and praised and glorified by different people. In all languages, in all cultures, in all traditions. I'm not saying they are doing this the same or equally, but I'm saying that, again, thanks to God Himself, God is present in the lives of many, many people. And we should be happy. I should not have difficulty in seeing good things in other faith communities. Sometimes I say, as a believer, we need to be grateful to God. Okay. What are you going to thank God for? Do you thank God for flowers in your garden only, or you thank God for all flowers in everyone's garden? If I thank God only for flowers in my garden, this is not enough. I should thank God for any flower in any garden. If I see there are Shia or Sunni or Catholics or Protestants who are doing good work, I should thank God and I should thank them. One of the things that we always try to do is we should try to show our appreciation to sisters, nuns, monks, or people, for example, in Focolare movement who are in formation. Because we say, as a Muslim brother, as a Muslim sister, we appreciate that you are gifting your life to God. And I thank God for showing this path to you. God has selected you. And I thank you for responding to the call of God. This is my job as a believer in God. If as a Muslim I don't see beauty of God here, I have problem in being a Muslim. Or the same with Christians. We need to thank God for everything that He does. We visit with groups different places, like different Mariapolis centers. Our Focolare friends have, Mariapolis places, like permanent Mariapolis places. Or, for example, we visit, monastic communities. And normally, when I visit a place, my intention is to make it a permanent relation. So I try not to, visit just once. So when we came, for example, to Subiaco for Catholic Shia Dialogue, and we were hosted here in 2017, then Subiaco went to my heart. So every time I was coming, even for other things, I said I should visit Subiaco. Or our brothers were coming, I said, please go and visit Subiaco. Because that is now in our heart. So someone asked me, why you visit all these places? For example, even sometimes they belong to the same community. For example, we go to Mariapolis, in Lopiano in Italy. We go to Switzerland. Here, now we are going to Mariapolis to Brazil, Mariapolis in Argentina. Someone said, why you visit and what differences you find? I said, if you love an artist and you have a piece of that artist in your home, you always look at it and admire that artist, refreshes you, yeah? But if you know this artist has other pieces in other places, do you want to visit or say one piece is enough? God is my artist. And God has different pieces of art in different places. If I see that this is from God, I love to go and visit. If God has done something in another place, I want to visit that. And not once, as often as I can. I want to spend my life just seeing what God has done in other places, in other communities. And thank them, and this will enrich me. So, don't thank God only for flowers in your garden. Okay, this is one takeaway. Thank God for all the flowers. And this means that you have to see flowers. Don't say, flowers in my garden are flowers, in neighbor's garden are thorns. No, they are not thorns. They are flowers. After this introductory, talk, let us look at some of the commonalities that are there between Islam and Christianity. This is part of my short book, Mary, Jesus and Christianity, an Islamic Perspective. So when we were going to publish the first volume of Catholic Shia Dialogue, 2004, then there was a need for this paper, so I added this paper to the volume. Because most of the volume was about presentations of the meeting, but I wrote it for that volume to be complete. So first I talk about Lady Mary, and this is also online. I can show you later where to find it. What we as Muslims think about Lady Mary. Then about Jesus, what we think about Jesus. And thirdly, what we think about Christianity. I wrote this in 2004, or close to 2004, because it was published in 2004. Now 19 years have passed. And 19 years of experiences, reflections. But there is nothing that I regret. Nothing I think, was not correct. But now I feel every word more. What was written at that time, I feel it more. So, after talking about Lady Mary and Jesus, I said the reason I am very interested in Muslim-Christian dialogue is because I see lots of commonalities. So now I list quickly these commonalities. First, we both believe and worship the same God. This is very important. And for me, this is the most fundamental thing. We worship the same God, who is one. Unfortunately, some Muslims think that Christians don't believe in one God. They think Christians believe in many gods. They don't understand Trinity in the way that Christians understand. But Christians are the first to say that we are monotheist, and they believe in one God. We all believe in one. Not that they believe in polytheistic understanding of God. So we all believe in one God, who is merciful, who is benevolent, who is omnipotent, who is omniscient, and omnipresent. And these are few words, but each of them, as you know, is a kind of ocean of discussion. When you say God is merciful, God is benevolent, God has knowledge of everything, these are very, very important points. And we shouldn't underestimate these things. Today, unfortunately, there are many people who don't believe in God. There are many people who don't associate themselves to any faith. So when someone says, I believe in the same God, you should be so happy that nothing can be comparable, that this person believes in God. Unfortunately, we take this for granted and you say, okay, he believes in God, but we have differences. He believes in God, that's the most important thing. Now, under God, we can improve our relations. Muslims and Christians love God immensely and try to devote themselves to Him and gain proximity to Him. It's very important. We all try to get closer to Him. We read in the Psalms, my soul thirsts for God, the God of life. When shall I go to seek the face of God? And in the Quran we read, to God belongs the east and the west. Wheresoever you turn, there is the face of God. Just this concept of seeking face of God is amazing, and how it can summarizes all our life. Yeah, what are you doing? You are seeking face of God. I am seeking face of God. But the problem is, we are not always able to find face of God in places which are not familiar to us. For example, if you have been always to one church, to your local church, and then you go to a new church that you have never been there with different architect, you have difficulty in finding face of God in the new church. Because that is not very familiar to you. The architect is different. Yeah? The same is when you go to another place of worship, you have difficulty in finding the face of God. You know, I have seen people that, for example, Muslims or maybe Christians, but I have seen Muslims and I don't know, maybe Christians also the same, that some Muslims can find God everywhere, as our sister said, you know, they can say their prayer anywhere, just, you know. But some Muslims, not majority, have difficulty in finding God in church. They can find God in the mosque, they can find God on the street, in the park, but in the church, maybe they cannot find God. God is not available to them in the church. Or for example, a Christian maybe can find God in the church, but not in the mosque. But those who are spiritual, those who are well-oriented, those who are enlightened, they can find face of God everywhere. And certainly in a place of worship, even if it is for another tradition, they can find face of God more easily. How? You know, just let us, you know, be honest. How as a Muslim and Christian I can accept that I go to a place of worship for another tradition and I don't see any beauty in years of worship of believers in that place, even if they are not from my tradition. If I go to a Sunni mosque and people have been worshiping God in that mosque, or a Christian, you know, church and people have been worshiping God for years in that church, and I go to that church or that mosque for another denomination, if I don't see the impact of their prayers and devotion to God, if I cannot smell the fragrance of their worship and glorification of God, then what is wrong with me? Why I am so biased? Why I cannot see that God was worshipped here? I'm not saying they are equal. You can love your church more than anything else. You can love your mosque more than anything else. But see the beauty in other places of worship. Find face of God everywhere. Don't restrict God. Unfortunately, because we are also very, you know, small, we also make God small. My God cannot be present everywhere. Why? Because I am not present everywhere. My God is a God of a person or a tribe or a sect. Real God is not God of a tribe or sect. Real God is universal. So, seeking face of God is very important. There is very rich and significantly similar spirituality in both religions. When we go to the field of mysticism and spirituality, we find similarities even more. Mystics are better in acknowledging the shared love. Number two, we both believe in human free will and their responsibility and accountability before God, and share the same understanding of key basic moral values. This by itself takes us to a very important discussion. You know, all our moral values and virtues are the same. Can you count one virtue that we don't agree? Just mention one virtue that we don't agree. For example, Muslims say this is virtue, Christians say this is wise. Or Christians say this is virtue, Muslims say this is wise. When it comes to moral values, we are the same. How much we exhibit those values, that's a question. Yeah? This is a personal, you know, struggle. I am sure that no one says all my, you know, community are great and are virtuous. We are all human beings, we have, you know, our shortcomings. But this doesn't reflect our faith. Our faith says that you should be all virtuous. Number 3, we both believe in resurrection and God's treatment of human beings with justice and mercy. God never does injustice, and indeed we are afraid of his justice. We want him to be treating us with mercy, not justice. Yeah? So our main hope is in his mercy. Number 4, we both have high esteem for the gift of reason and conscience. Our second round of Catholic Shia dialogue in 2005 was on reason and faith in theory and practice. With some Christian traditions and some Muslim traditions, this is even more clear. For example, the Shia and the Catholic, they have great recognition for reason, for intellect. At the same time, we recognize that we need also revelation to help us. Our reason is not enough. We need both reason and revelation. Number 5, we both believe that all human beings come from the same father and mother. Just having same God is enough to feel united. But on top of that, we also have been given the same father and mother. We both believe in Adam and Eve as our parents. This is very important. So it makes you feel brothers and sisters. Not only in God, but also in Adam and Eve. We are brothers and sisters. We have a great sense of fellowship and deny any sort of racism. Maybe we as Christians or Muslims have been racist, or maybe still some of us are racist. But Islam and Christianity have no place for racism. Yeah? Our faith is against racism. We believe in the dignity of all human beings and reject any unjust treatment of mankind. And we appreciate the value of human life as a great divine gift. Sacredness of life. This by itself has been topic for some of our conferences about sacredness of life. 6, we both believe in prophethood and share a long history of prophecy, right from the beginning of the history of mankind. Of course, when it comes to Jesus, then we have different understanding. But up to Jesus, we have the same understanding of prophethood. But our Christian brothers and sisters say that in the new era, New Testament is referring to the new covenant that God has, that now God has revealed himself by sending Jesus. But before Jesus, all the revelations and prophets, are the same kind of understanding that we have and we share. Abraham, Moses, Jacob, Joseph, Isaac, we all share. Number 7, we both have great respect for Prophet Abraham. And we consider him as our role model, as the father of all who believe, as the champion of monotheism. Number 8, we both have great reverence and love for Lady Mary and her son, Jesus, upon them be peace. We believe in virgin birth of Jesus. And we both await his second coming. This is very important. And actually, this is one of the ideas that make us very interested in working for bringing Christians and closer together, because we believe that in the end of time, we need this unity so that we can welcome Jesus and the 12th Imam to this world. Number 9, we both share great concerns about the challenges of living a life of faith in today's world, caused by the contemporary culture of materialism and secularism. I have made some quotations here from different popes, but recently the document on human fraternity, which was signed by the Pope and the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, they have very interestingly highlighted all the problems that we have today. And we see we share the same concerns. Number 10, I believe in a complete harmony between all divine revelations and prophecies. There has never been any rivalry or enmity between the prophets. You know, the late Imam Khomeini used to say, if all the prophets, you know, we believe there were 124,000 prophets. If all 124,000 prophets were living together, they didn't have a slightest of, you know, issues of, you know, rivalry or competition. 124,000 prophets can live together peacefully. But sometimes two believers cannot live together peacefully. Yeah, this is our personal human problem. It is not our faith problem. So we have to believe in all the prophets. Therefore, I'm just making it very fast. So as a Muslim, I have no need to deny Jesus or his mission. Indeed, I have to be faithful to Jesus because my faith requires me. So even being a Muslim requires me to believe in Jesus, to believe in Moses, to believe in Abraham. Not only there is no conflict, indeed it is part of the package. I cannot discriminate against even one out of 120,000 prophets. Any person who is chosen by God is my hero, is my role model. As the Quran says in chapter 3, verse 84, say we believe in God and with what has been revealed to us and what was revealed to Abraham. We cannot say we believe only to what was revealed to us. No, we believe to what was revealed to us and to whatever God revealed. To Abraham, to Ishmael, to Isaac, to Jacob, to the tribes. Books given to Moses, Jesus, and the prophets from the Lord. We make no distinction between one and another among them. And then I said, I don't need to deny or cover up the gifts of Jesus or valuable qualities of Christianity. These are all signs of greatness of the same God. These are all divine blessings that increase my sense of richness, for which I must be very thankful. So when I see Christian organizations, institutions, I feel grateful. I say these are gifts of God. Number 13, I have no need to compromise my faith in order to enter into a genuine, sustainable, and fruitful dialogue. Genuine, sustainable, fruitful dialogue doesn't require you compromise about your faith. You can have your faith and still be open to each other and have great dialogue. It is actually the Quran itself that asks me to call for dialogue and for the common word. Number 14, the Quran shows great affection for Christians because of their humility, their search for truth, and their sympathy with Muslims. For example, we read in the Quran, this is a very important verse. Unfortunately, we don't have time to discuss about these verses, but please just think, Islam came as a new call towards God, and if it was work of the Prophet as a human being, should find Christians as rivals, and especially priests and monks as rivals. Our Prophet, if it was a work of a human being, your challenge would be what? Another religion. And leaders of that religion should be your challenge. How I can get rid of these, priests and monks. But this is work of God. And God says Christians have great qualities. Why? One reason is ذَلَكَ بَأَنَّ مِنْهُمْ قِسِّيسِينَ وَرُهْبَانًا, because among Christians are priests and monks. So the Quran acknowledges the great work of priests and monks in making Christians better. If it was a human you know, initiative, not God's initiative, should say, these are my competitors. I should, bring them down. You will find the nearest among men in love to the believers to be those who say we are Christians, because there are among them priests and monks, and because they are not arrogant. Number 15, through my close and intimate relationships with many Christians, and this is 2003, 2004, now it is confirmed even more, I have come to the conclusion that the Quranic description and praise of the Christians at the time of Prophet Muhammad can be witnessed in Christendom today. Those sincere Christians, those humble Christians are not, missing. They have not perished. Thanks to God, they are still available. Not every Christian. Not every Muslim is great. Not every Christian. But there are good Christians. There are, great Christians. I should be able to acknowledge. There are sincere, truth-seeking, humble, and sympathetic Christians who have devoted their lives to God. And I see no reason why I should not take these people as a real representative of Christianity. Whenever you meet someone good from another tradition, you can say this person is good because he follows that tradition. You can say this person is exception. If you are not good with Muslims, if you see a good Muslim, you say this is exception. Yeah. But if I see good Christian, I say this is not exception. This is what's supposed to be. Because this is what God, has introduced Christianity. If there is bad Christian, that is exception. I don't look at quantity or statistics. Yeah, I say good ones are the real ones. Good Sunnis are real Sunnis. If there are bad Sunnis, they are not Sunni. They are exceptions. Because human beings can hide their weaknesses behind their faith. Yeah, we can have bad Shia, we can have bad Catholics, bad Sunnis. These are all there. But the real ones are virtuous ones. Because no faith tells you to cheat. Is there any faith who says to cheat? So if you see a Muslim is cheating or Christian cheating, they are not representing their faith. Good ones represent their faith. And then I said, finally, it helps me to see that my Christian friends also echo my appreciation and my respect and love for them. Please remember this point. In interfaith dialogue, in the work you do for unity, don't expect reward from people. Don't expect return. I am good with fellow Muslim or Christian citizens, but they are not open. For example, I invited this imam or this priest, and they don't show for example, interest, etc. Don't lose your hope, because you are not doing this to gain their respect or gain attention. You do it for the sake of God. Yeah, you don't make appreciation of people a condition for praying and fasting. In the same way that you pray and fast, you have to work for unity. Okay? For the sake of God. People normally appreciate. But maybe there are some people that they don't appreciate. Maybe they need time. Do your work for the sake of God. But it helps when we see, at least from the leadership perspective, this exchange is there. I see in the teachings of the church, especially Catholic Church, we are talking about now, about Catholics, because this was for the Catholic Shia dialogue. We see in the official teachings of Catholic Church, especially from Second Vatican Council onwards, from sayings of the popes, we see that they reciprocate this respect and love that I have for Christianity. They reciprocate towards Islam. Even if they didn't reciprocate, still I should have continued. But it makes it much easier that there is reciprocation. When our leaders on top, they respect each other, they work together, it makes life for us much easier. So, here then I have mentioned some of the things that the Catholic Church has made about Islam, some comments. Quickly, one, willingness for dialogue and cooperation with Muslims. You find this in Nostra Aetate, which is very important, although it is maybe the shortest document of the Second Vatican Council, but still it's very profound. And it paved the way that there is interest for dialogue and cooperation with Muslims. For example, you see Pope John Paul II, he was pioneer, of course. He was inspired by Second Vatican Council and he was pioneer in dialogue. And he says the Catholic Church wishes to pursue a sincere and fruitful interreligious dialogue with the members of the Jewish faith and the followers of Islam. Such a dialogue is not an attempt to impose our views upon others. What it demands of all of us is that holding to what we believe, we listen respectfully to one another, seek to discern all that is good and holy in each other's teachings, and cooperate in supporting everything that favors mutual understanding and peace. He said this in 2000. More than openness for dialogue, high regard for Muslims. For example, here I have a quotation from Nostra Aetate, which says, the church regards with esteem also the Muslims. They adore the one God, living and subsisting in himself, merciful and all-powerful, the creator of heaven and earth, who has spoken to men. They take pains, means Muslims, take pain to submit wholeheartedly to even his inscrutable decrees, just as Abraham, with whom the faith of Islam takes pleasure in linking itself, submitted to God. Though they do not acknowledge Jesus as God, they revere him as a prophet. They also honor Mary, his virgin mother. At times they even call on her with devotion. In addition, they await the day of judgment when God will render their deserts to all those who have been raised up from the dead. Finally, they value the moral life and worship God, especially through prayer, almsgiving, and fasting. This is very key document, so paves the way for the Catholic Church to work with Muslims. Then recognizing salvation for Muslims. This is also very important. For example, in Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 841, says the plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator in the first place, amongst whom are the Muslims. And the recognizing Islam as a sister faith and Muslims as sisters and brothers in faith. For example, Pope John Paul II addressed the Catholic community in Ankara in 1979, and he said, they have like you the faith of Abraham in the one almighty and merciful God. Or he said, your God and ours is the same, and we are brothers and sisters in the faith of Abraham. And respect for Prophet Muhammad. For example, I quoted from the president of the Spanish Bishops' Conference, Cardinal Tarancon, in 1977. He said, how is it possible to appreciate Islam and Muslims without showing appreciation for the Prophet of Islam and the values he promoted? Not to do this would not only be a lack of respect to which the Vatican Council exhorts Christians, but also neglect of a religious factor of which account must be taken in theological reflection and religious awareness. So I say to my Muslim brothers and sisters, and I think you Christian brothers and sisters also think the same, we have all the things that we need, all the support from our scriptures, from our leaders, from our documents, and from our personal experiences, to look at each other as brothers and sisters in real sense. We are not trying to be diplomatic, in our speech. We try to be as honest as possible. Of course, it's good to be diplomatic if it's honest, but I'm saying we are not hiding anything. We are very honest. We are brothers and sisters in the same God, and we need to work together, to praise God together, to pray to God together, and to bring light of God to ourselves and to others as much as we can. This is the summary of what I think we need to do and what we have all the reasons to do, and God, I think, would expect us to do these things together. Thank you very much for your attention. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Thank you. Thank you very much.